Back in 2018, a college student was living in an old dormitory. The room next to his had been empty for months. Nobody lived there. But almost every night, at exactly 3 a.m., he would hear a strange sound coming from that side. At first, he thought it was just the building settling, or maybe some old pipes making noise, but there was something strange about it. The sound always happened 3 times, never more, never less. After a few weeks, he mentioned it to the dorm caretaker. The caretaker just laughed and said, "You're not the first person to hear it." Apparently, students before him had complained about the exact same thing. That answer only made him more curious. So one night, he decided to wait outside the empty room and find out where the sound was really coming from. 3 a.m. arrived. But this time, something felt different. The sound wasn't coming from inside the room. It was coming from inside the wall. The next morning, the dorm staff opened the wall to investigate. Behind it, they discovered a narrow, hidden space that had been sealed off for decades. Everyone expected to finally find the source of the mysterious noise, but what they found was even stranger. Inside the hidden space was only an old chair, and sitting on that chair was a rusty metal spoon. When they searched through old dorm records, they found something disturbing. More than 40 years earlier, a student who had lived in that exact room had suddenly disappeared. His case was never solved. But the creepiest part happened a few days later. One of the older employees found a collection of old photographs from the dorm. As they looked through the pictures, one photo caught everyone's attention. In it, the missing student was sitting on the exact same chair, and in his hand was the very same metal spoon. After that, the wall was sealed up again, and for a long time, nobody wanted to live in the room next door.
Several students were living in a university dorm. One of them had recently moved in. He was always talking about his roommate. He'd say the guy was quiet and usually stayed up late at night. Sometimes he'd even tell his friends about the conversations they had in the middle of the night. At first, nobody thought anything was strange about it, until one day they noticed something weird. The room only had one bed. His friends thought he was joking. But one day, when a dorm supervisor came by for an inspection, the student mentioned his roommate again. The supervisor looked confused and said, "You're the only person who's ever been assigned to that room." The student laughed and replied, "No, he's here every night." That's when people started getting worried. A few days later, the dorm staff decided to put a camera inside the room. Everyone was convinced the student was just dealing with stress or lack of sleep. The next morning, they checked the footage. The student was asleep in his bed. At 3:12 a.m., he suddenly woke up. He sat upright and stared into a dark corner of the room. A few seconds later, he smiled and started talking, as if someone was sitting right in front of him. But that wasn't the strangest part. What happened a few minutes later shocked everyone. The student got up, filled 2 glasses of water, and placed them on the desk. One for himself, one for his roommate. Then, for less than a second, the camera feed cut out. When the picture came back, the second glass was half empty, even though nobody except the student had been in the room. The police couldn't come up with any explanation for what happened, but after watching the footage, the student refused to spend another night in that room. When people asked him why, he only said one thing: "I always thought I was the one talking to him, but after watching the video, I realized he was the one talking to me the whole time."